Hey everybody, Flip here, one of the founders of Freedom Real Estate Group, family of companies, and I'm joined today by our amazing transaction coordinator, Tiffany.
Hello.
And we'd like to welcome you to our podcast. This is podcast number 46. Quattro seis.
It's almost a whole year.
Yeah, exactly. And our podcast is called Real Talk, which is real talk for the real estate investor. Look at that. See, I remembered.
Which I just learned.
Yeah. But this started many moons ago with us talking about, because when our company first started, well, not too long after it started, you came on board.
Yeah.
Because we were pulling you to come on board.
Yes.
And so I was the acquisitions department, and you were the transaction coordinator department.
Yep.
And so we got to do a lot of closings together.
We did.
And there was, back in the day, I used to actually sign stuff. And we had some doozies of closings. Not the, I didn't bring the check to closing, or is a personal check okay? Not those kind of closings.
Right.
These are doozies. And so we got talking about it, and we're like, you know what? We should do an episode on the podcast for this, because these are pretty funny. Excuse
funny.
me.
Now that we're on the other side of them.
Yeah, funny. Funny now that they're a year or two down the road.
Yes.
The first one, though, I'm just going to simply call this one the heater. It was, I got this one in February, and it was a screaming deal, and I wanted to do it, and it was, I couldn't pass it up. Tiffany had not started working for us yet.
Correct.
And so we got the deal in a contract, and about a month or two later, saying the wholesaler that we got this one with, he came back and said, hey, we hit a snag, so we're gonna have to delay closing, and that's all he said, and I'm like, okay, yeah, not a problem, I can wait, whatever, and because we didn't have any earnest money or anything involved, right, or whatever. And so this kept getting delayed, and then Tiffany came on board finally.
Yes.
We came to find out that the wholesaler got it under contract with a woman, and a couple months into it, found out that the woman is married.
Yeah.
And here in Ohio, we have the
dower rights.
Yeah, dower rights. And so if you're married, no matter what, both husband and wife have to sign the closing documents.
Yeah. Or sign to release dower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
buying or selling.
Yeah, buying or selling. And so we're like, oh, okay, well, do we know where the husband is? And that's when it got a little bit even crazier.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the husband was in prison.
Huh. Well, right? We know where he's at.
Right. So, but it took, I want to say, till August of that year.
Yeah.
August, September, maybe.
September, because it was a. Yeah,
it was like a 9-month closing.
Yeah,
8 months, whatever it was, to get this guy to sign the deed or something. I don't even remember. I remember starting here, and I had a weekly task to check in and say, "Hey, how's this one look?"
And so I didn't
even know what I'm checking on.
Yeah, and so this is how crazy this is because they found him, and they went down, and they kept talking to him. He wouldn't sign anything. And so, but the wholesaler really wanted to get the wholesale fee on this deal, which I don't even care how much it was. I don't even know how much it was. He wanted to get this deal closed. So the wholesaler told the woman, listen, the only way you're going to close this is if you get divorced. And so
that's what happened.
Yes. So that she actually filed papers. She actually filed the paperwork to get divorced from the guy in prison, just so that she could sell this property, so the wholesaler could get his deal. Jeez. That's why it took 9 months.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so
I thought he eventually signed the paper.
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't even know.
Just in this house, by the way, this house was chest deep of garbage.
Yes.
In every room. In fact, they were cleaning out the garage, and they called me up and said, "Hey, Flip, guess what?" I said, "What's that?" And he goes, "We found a car in the garage." There was so much garbage in the garage. There was a car underneath the garbage.
There was also a boat in the backyard that I didn't see when I went out.
Well, it was
walked around the property with somebody.
The garbage was distracting.
Yeah.
And I still tell people to this day, the half bath next to the kitchen had 3 lawnmowers and a washing machine in the half bath. Because that's
We
where
didn't know it was a half bath.
yeah, that's where you store.
Didn't we just say it was a one bath and then it was a magical half bath?
Yes, because it just because we took out the lawnmowers.
Yeah.
So that was really the
heater.
first big closing, or big crazy closing. But we got it closed, and it held the record for a good couple years as being the longest from contract to close. But that has since been beat. But I'll let you talk about the next one. This is a good one.
Oh man! So this next one, I'm actually still dealing with a little bit. So I say funny when they're behind us. This one I'm still dealing with a little bit. But we closed on a property last July, and we found out, I want to say a week after closing, we put a sign in the yard. Cash for Ohio Houses had put a sign in the yard, saying, we bought this property, and call us if you want to sell us yours. Well, someone called us and they said, we own this property. And this guy that you bought it from has a fraud case against him with the police department. And he doesn't own it. So she sends, this guy had basically forged a deed from the previous seller who had passed away 4 years earlier, saying, she signed this deed in May of last year, 2021. Yeah. Yep. So that is a lesson to always buy title insurance. And on every property, it is so important. Because this was notarized, this was by the book. So it seemed, and it couldn't have been found. It's one of our title company they have had one title claim in 30 years, and this was it. So
Yay,
it couldn't have been found. And she said everything passed, everything looked good. The county recorded it, right? Everything was good. Anyway, so come to find out, we don't own the property. So we had to go through a title claim to get our money back. But getting our money back all of a sudden means that we're no longer the victim. So we can't be helped by the prosecutor when we're directed from the county to the prosecutor. We still own this property. It's still in our name via the county website. But do we own it? No, we don't. We're just trying to get back to these people.
We're just trying to get our name off of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've been reaching out to these people and no response, nothing. We reached out to a prosecutor. Finally, I got an answer on what I need to do. And so I've hired an attorney for the company, and we're working with them to get something filed to just get it out of our name. But it has been, it's been a mess.
Yeah, I remember that it was like the day after when the person called and said, we own this property and whatever, that phone call. I remember seeing the guys in the hallway, and they're like, what would you do if this happens? And I'm like, well, I don't know. This has never happened before.
This is new information.
Yep. And I always tell people that's one of the reasons why we love real estate so much is because there's so many, every day's new.
Yeah.
Or something's always new or whatever. And this was one that was like, haven't had that happen before.
Yeah. And nobody knew what to do. I mean, I was directed, to the county auditor. Like, they've dealt with this before. They've had to have dealt with this before, and I started explaining. She said, I'm going to stop you right there. You need to go to the county prosecutor. I went to them, and they're like, stop you right there. I can't help you. What's happening? And it was just, it's been crazy, but we are hopeful that it will be resolved in like a month. I don't know.
Yes.
Now we're just paying tax bills on a property we don't really own.
Yay.
Just to
awesome.
look good, just so that we look good, we're doing the right thing. But yeah, that one's crazy. Moral of the story, though, always get title insurance.
Yes, that's always, yes. And have a title company that you trust.
Yes, definitely.
So this next one, now, if you follow us, if you've been following us, we're on podcast 46, so I'm guessing you followed us for a little bit or something. But Danny and I always talk about our 56-unit horror story and about buying the apartments and everything that happened with the apartments. Well, it was a package deal, and one of the things you don't hear about is the other part of the package.
Yeah.
Because what happened was one of our guys that was in the acquisitions team said, "Hey, I've got this 15 backup properties."
Single family and duplex.
Yeah, it was 12 single family and 3 duplexes. And these were all in the perfect location. These were all 15 were all home runs.
Yeah.
And we wanted them now.
Yes.
And this was, I want to say it was like March of
2020.
Of 2020. Oh, right when COVID
2020.
hit. Yeah,
it was right before I came back, actually.
Yep, and it was right when COVID started shutting things down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was back from maternity leave. You actually sent me a text before I came back and said, we're buying a 15 pack. And I was like,
to you.
Go ahead and send. I said, go ahead and send those before I come back.
That's right.
So that somebody else would set them up.
Yeah.
I remember doing that. Sorry, Cassie.
So we wanted to get these properties right away. And then we find out that we're like, wait, what? We can't buy these now? And this was because the seller also had the 56 unit apartments, and he wouldn't release the 15 single family and duplexes without selling the 56 unit. And so now the acquisitions team is on this mad dash to get a buyer. And they got a buyer. And so we're like, yay, they got a buyer. We can close on these 15 because we're already starting to line up investors in our turnkey company.
Yeah.
We're lining up investors to buy these 15 units. We're basically lining people up to buy properties that we had not closed on yet because we got them. They're a great price. We agreed to the price. Boom,
Right.
Let's go.
We're lining up lenders,
Yes.
everything.
Everything
we're
was
good.
all set up.
Yeah.
March and April of 2020. And the buyer, if you don't know the whole story, the buyer got a lender, and then the lender had to go out and inspect the apartments, but this was COVID, so he couldn't go out for a month and a half to go inspect the apartments, and it was one thing after another, and this got all the way through September, and at this point, now Danny and I, Danny especially, was talking directly with the seller. We got everyone else out of the way, and Danny started talking with the seller, building up a rapport, and the guy, the seller was, he told us exactly what he wanted. He said, "I'm so sorry, but I need to sell everything."
Yep.
And the other buyer finally came back, and he said he was at one price, and he dropped it like super a lot because he found out how much we had it under contract for, and he said, "That's what I'll buy it for." And that was the end of September. And because wasn't it October that we closed on these?
We closed October 15th, 2020.
So it was October 1st when Danny walked in and said, "You know what? We're buying them."
Yeah.
And so because, again, we weren't buying the apartments because we wanted the apartments. We were buying the apartments because we wanted these 15 properties because we had investors lined up we had private our private lenders set up. We had everything set up for these 15 properties.
Yeah.
And then finally Danny said, "Nope, we're going to buy them." And in 2 weeks she did the inspections, and you got more private lenders to help buy the apartments in 2 weeks' time.
It was a mad dash to raise some private money there.
That was the welcome back after having a baby, Tiffany.
Yes, the welcome back special.
Yeah, yeah. Did I miss anything out of that one?
No, that one was... It was a doozy, but it was fun.
Yeah, because that one was March to October.
Yes. Yeah. There was a lot of the same, hey, what's the status? What's the status? A lot of just kind of sitting on it, right? We were just waiting for this guy to go through with his apartment purchase, and turned into a mad dash there at the end. But it was crazy. We closed 74 doors in one day. So... And I think at that point, a record. I was signing the closing docs.
Yes.
You had passed that to me right before.
Oh,
Thank you.
Oh, look at that.
And I signed 16. This was before I was doing some more DocuSign.
Right.
I hand signed 16 sets of closing docs while we were doing virtual pumpkin carving with the company.
Oh, that's right.
And I was just sitting here signing a stack like this big.
But there's a whole nightmare with not only with the apartments. So the apartments are the ones we talk about the most, but the apartments, some of the same people that we talk about that was giving us problems in the apartments was also giving us problems with those 15 properties because he knew everything.
Yeah.
And so it was, and if you want a good laugh, go back and watch that podcast. That was that one was a doozy.
Yes.
I'll let you start on this next one. I think you know a little bit more about this one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you actually reminded me of this one. So
Well, it's because I can't believe
this
it actually happened.
Yeah, and I don't even know the property address. I can't even remember,
Right.
you know? And I don't even remember when it happened. It was spring last year, maybe?
Yeah, well, ever since COVID hit, everything's kind of just get cloudy.
It's like 2 years or like this.
Yes.
But this one was owned by 3 or 4 siblings. One of the siblings we found out later on, one of the siblings was homeless, lived in Washington, D.C., and had no form of ID. So
yeah, and that was
like a hard stop for a minute, you know?
Sorry for interrupting, but that wasn't by the way, this person is homeless in Washington, D.C. and doesn't have any ID.
No,
this was one day we found out
it was
homeless.
fed to us that way.
You know, and then the next day, by the way, he's homeless, but he's in the Washington, D.C. area.
Right.
And then the next thing we learn a few days later is,
no form of ID.
He's homeless, he's in Washington, D.C. area, and he has no form of ID.
Right.
And so this was, it wasn't just that was, really? Oh, my
God. Yeah, one thing after another. So we were worried that this deal would just die. You know, we're not going to get this property. There's no way.
At that point, I'm waving the white flag. You know,
right.
I'm like, there's no way we're going to get this done.
So this is one of those work with a good title company. They did all the work to get with this agency who helped them track this guy down, helped him obtain some sort of ID. I don't even know. Helped him get to a notary, helped him get his docs signed and notarized and sent back.
I don't
even know. I don't know how it happened. You came into my
office and said, well, we got everything signed. We're going to close. And I'm like,
yeah.
I could not.
Yeah. That was me when I got the email from the title company that said, yeah, we're good now.
Yeah. and I don't remember from contract to close how long this took, but this one took at least a few months because it was, first of all, because I think it was the parents owned it and they gave it to the kids or whatever, so then we find out that the people that owned it actually it's the kids that owned it. It was one thing after another.
Right.
And so this one was a good 4 or 5 months, but just the homeless individual that didn't have ID and how we were able to get that signed.
Yes.
I don't know.
Crazy.
We had some luck on that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
But now, when we were talking the other day, you told me about this one, which I completely forgot about. And this one, I'm glad you put this one last because this one, comical. I would definitely say.
It feels recent.
Yeah.
But I don't know when it was. I guess it was recent actually. So,
well,
so actually, with the timing,
COVID, so it definitely had been in the last 2 years.
Well, with the timing, so we talked about the one that we purchased, but we don't actually own, and we're still working on that. We were fresh off the heels of finding out that this was a fraudulent case, and then this deal pops up,
and the hits keep on coming.
Right, and we're like, so everyone's on edge right now. Everyone's like, we're double, triple checking. The title company is so nervous about fraudulent things and they're worried. And so anyway, we find out, like he mentioned, dower rights. So we reached out to the seller. Hey, we don't have your legal or your marital status is not on the deed. Are you married or divorced? And we heard from actually one of the guys on our team. Oh, she's divorced. Great. Perfect. We're good. Oh no, she's separated. Hold on. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
So, we said, okay, well, her spouse will have to sign on the deed. He'll have to sign to release dower. That's going to be a problem. Well, why is that? He lives in Mexico. Okay. And is not a U.S. citizen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Double whammy.
That we can work with that. We'll figure it out, right? Well, some notaries, it depends on the country. Some notaries, American notaries, and I don't know, it's title speak that goes right over my head. But, sometimes the consulate and their notaries will be accepted by the counties here and blah, blah, blah. Different countries are different ways, right?
Right.
So we get everything figured out. Perfect. He has to go to the Mexican consulate to sign his documents, make sure he brings some form of ID. We lay out all of this stuff, and then we hear back. You know, our guy is talking to the seller. I'm talking to title. It's just this big telephone chain back and forth, you know. Then I hear back, well, he's actually here. He's visiting. He's here in Ohio. Okay. Great. We're all getting a little bit nervous because we're getting little pieces of information at a time. Totally fine. You know what? They're going to all go to the title company and they're going to sign their documents. Again, make sure he brings some form of ID, you know, because everyone has something, right?
Right. Or should. Right.
Or should. And then I found out he's in the hospital with COVID. Please just email the documents to this email. And I said, well, that's not how it works. Because they actually have to be notarized, A. B, if you're in the hospital with COVID, you can't get a notary in there.
Yeah.
Somebody's not going to come in and notarize. So I don't know, but I assume not.
Right.
And C, now we don't trust you. Like now we're very nervous.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all
now the red flag is
to wait however long until he's out. And so I sent that back down the telephone chain and I get back, he's getting out tomorrow.
Hallelujah.
And you know, if
he's been saved.
If you're still following the story, you can see how fresh off the heels of that other fraud case, we were like, okay, make sure he brings some form of ID when he goes into the title company, right? And we come back and we hear, what was it? It was some, he does have an ID. It's just an expired ID from a different state. And I was like, I'm just going to let the title company deal with this. Just make sure he has some form of ID. And Sue, who works at our title company, she said, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about this one. I don't know what he's going to show up with. And I'm like, you know what? Just scrutinize that ID and just look at it very
make sure
closely.
It's legit. Yeah.
He showed up. He had a valid ID from Virginia, I think. But it was valid. He was the person. The names matched. It was crazy. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, fresh off the heels of the other one, like I said, we were scrutinizing this and it was just,
and so this
you get fed pieces of information, like what's happening.
And this is, again, another one that took like 3 or 4 months.
Oh, so long. Yes.
Yeah. And we say 3 or 4 months, and some people, well, that's not that bad, you know. We
close in like 7 days.
Yeah, 7 to 10 days, you know, from contract to close.
We just closed one last week that was 7 days.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, and those are, boom, you know, title run, boom, boom, boom. The sellers come in to sign. We sign, and boom, you know, Bob's your uncle. Oh, there you go. Let's see if anyone gets that one.
Not me.
Yeah, no, not very many people on this side of the pond will get that one. Yeah, so again, so these 3 or 4 months, and because there's so many things that we set up. Once a contract comes in, boom, 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 we set up all these things to close.
Right.
And so when there's delays, that it sort of throws a wrinkle in everything that we just prepared to close that quickly. And so that's why these stand out. Yeah. And these are the craziest ones, the top 5 craziest closings that we've had, at least that you and I could think of.
Yes.
And and if you're keeping score at home, we're 4-1. So we got 4 of these, and one we really got the other one, but it's not ours.
We got it and we gave it back.
Yeah, we gave it back. So we're 4-1 for these 5. Well, we hope that you enjoyed our top 5 craziest closings. Again, make sure that you're checking out all of our other vlogs and all of our other podcasts. And oh, hey, by the way, there's this other really cool podcast called Freedom Through Passive Income. So make sure you watch that. Now, I know the people that do that one. But anyway, we always like to end all of our episodes with
invest smart,
live happy. Bye, everybody. Nothing on this show should be considered specific personal or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions and information on this show are not guaranteed. All investment strategies